Welcome back to our town, Beatrice, where Bryan Cooke is without a doubt one of the most popular people in town. He's been a radio and TV sportscaster here since 1999. Bryan is wrapping up a very trying year as he is, quite frankly, lucky to be alive. Back in February, Bryan got a wake-up call that sent him to the hospital, fighting for his life.
I just was getting ready for a baseball banquet and just collapsed in the hall after I took a shower, lost my balance, and I couldn't feel my right side. And thank God my wife was home. She's a lifesaver.
This 53-year-old had had a stroke, and doctors were not optimistic about a quick recovery.
Yeah, they thought it would take years to rehabilitate and be back to walking again, and talking is my livelihood on the radio. So that was kind of scary.
But Bryan soon realized that he was not alone in his battle to recover.
Because of the community support here in Beatrice and a place called Paradise, which is the surrounding area of Beatrice, because it's where I live, they all showed support, whether through fundraisers, prayers, thoughts, cards, phone calls. It made me realize this was my home and they wanted me back.
This U.S. Army veteran went through months of agonizing rehab at Bryan West in Lincoln and finally returned home in May. And the entire town of Beatrice welcomed him home, especially his coworkers.
Yeah, they're more than just work people, they're work family to me because they were up there supporting me as well.
Bryan returned to work 4 months after his stroke.
It felt like years. It really did, through all what I had to go through to get back. District championships on the line.
Jay Hanna couldn't be more impressed with the coworker and friend he calls a father figure.
I always knew he'd be back, but just the speed that it's happened has just been incredible to me.
It's hard to describe. I mean, this is a miracle.
Dave Needfelt is Bryan's boss.
Well, the Beatrice Orangemen hit the road for their final regular season game.
Dave says the entire town of Beatrice rallied around Bryan.
There was a huge outpouring, and I just think that everybody looked at Bryan not as the KWBE sportscaster, but Bryan Cooke as the friend.
This Texas native learned a lot about how important it is for people to take care of themselves.
My wife and my son are victims of a stroke because I'm a survivor of a stroke. I made them victims for not doing my doctor checkups.
Bryan thought he was in excellent shape before he had a stroke.
I had this male thing about arrogance, maybe, about not going to doctor checkups. I had no idea I had high blood pressure, which could have triggered this stroke. If I'd have known that, I wouldn't have had to go through this.
The bottom line is, Bryan wants all of us to benefit from the sobering lesson that he learned through his painful journey of 2017. Do yourself and your loved ones a favor, and always, always get doctor checkups on a regular basis. The Community Players Theater Group was literally born in a basement way back in 1975. A group of Beatrice residents with a love of live theater gathered together in the basement of the City Auditorium. Today, 42 years later, Community Players produce 10 full-length shows per season.
You don't never have to go through life a woman who ain't been asked.
One of the things that Community Players really prides itself on is the quality of the work, the focus on professionalism, but also the ability to have just a good time.
So that we can see her becoming this annoying little flirt.
Jamie Ulmer is in his 21st year as the managing artistic director of Community Players.
We do really put a lot of variety into our programming. We always make sure that we're not just doing the exact same thing every single show.
This Sutton native is the leader of a 4-person paid staff, which speaks to the commitment of this organization.
There's only 6 community theaters in the entire state of Nebraska that employ full-time staff, and we're one of them. And so that the fact that that's happening here in Beatrice is really amazing.
My husband and I don't have family that live in Beatrice, so this has really become our family.
Morgan Tunick is a York native who knows firsthand the great deal of work that it takes to keep Community Players running smoothly.
I get a little teary-eyed thinking about all of the work and the dedication that all of our volunteers put into this, because that set that you see is all built by volunteers. All of the costumes you see put together are volunteers. All of our actors are volunteers.
Oh, Jimmy, for Pete's sake.
Sterling Johnson, originally of Fairfield, is one of those volunteers.
I think it's very impressive because the arts is a very important thing for any kind of community, and the fact that it's such a small community that the community itself has really latched on to community players and like kept it rolling. It's very impressive. It just shows how much this town enjoys community players.
The Community Players Theater is located in downtown Beatrice, but it's enjoyed by thousands of people from outside of Gage County.
We consider our marketing radius to be about a 60-mile radius from Beatrice, and in fact only 58% of our audience is from Beatrice. The next highest percentage is Lincoln.
Last year, Jamie says 16 new first-time actors appeared in Community Players productions.
This year our goal is to get 20 new actors in.
Jamie likes to see new faces on stage.
Because they bring a new bit of energy, they bring new audience, and also it's just more fun for people to meet new friends.
The Players are currently in the midst of a 2-week run of their hilarious Christmas show. And the next Players production will take place in early 2018 when a family-friendly musical version of James and the Giant Peach takes the stage in February. Coming up, we'll meet a man who spent a great deal of his life creating pottery that is appreciated by a lot of people here in southeast Nebraska. And we'll get a taste of our town Beatrice as well. Those stories are coming up next. Welcome back to Our Town Beatrice. Irv Dixon has created his own special version of The Good Life as he makes a living doing something he loves, living and working out in the peaceful countryside surrounding Beatrice. To many people in southeast Nebraska, his salt-glazed clay work is truly a thing of beauty.
I get clay from Ohio and Tennessee and Missouri, and I mix it together. My throwing is done on the wheel.
Irv Dixon goes through about 4 tons of clay every year. Irv grew up just a few miles east of the spot where this 122-year-old church turned art gallery sits.
The nice thing about it is clay is just unique. It does this, which no other material does.
This veteran potter is a 1964 graduate of Beatrice High School.
Well, I had some introduction to clay in high school. And so my interest was piqued, but general art was just it.
Irv went to art school in Kansas City and Philadelphia.
I went to art school, I was always an art major, and sculpture was my main interest, but I was always taking pottery.
Irv taught at the University of Miami in Florida for 7 years, but then moved home and started his own business in Beatrice in 1976.
And plates and platters go out, and cylinders and spheres go up.
After 4 decades and thousands of plates, platters, and pots, this process is second nature to Irv.
I'm still fascinated by the small things that make a pot a good thing or a bad thing.
When he's sitting at his wheel and his hands are wet, Irv is forever optimistic.
Any new idea that I'm working on is it. I just am absolutely certain that that's going to be the best thing I've ever made.
Upstairs in his gallery is where customers shop for handmade treasures.
Well, it's very satisfying to work in clay and then to have a place to display my work and to have a gallery showing my work all the time. That's kind of nice. And I've worked at that, and it is satisfying.
Irv has operated his business in this old church for more than 2 decades.
And I still enjoy walking in and seeing. It's just nice to see all of your work out there in front of you.
I like his creativity.
Rosie Reedy is not only one of Irv's employees, she's also a high school classmate of Irv's.
Everyone should come just because we have somebody very talented in our area, and he does a great job.
Cedar Creek Pottery is located 7 miles east of Beatrice, and Irv is open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. For many Americans, it just isn't Christmas time unless they get to enjoy a big slice of fruitcake. And after tasting a succulent slice of Grandma's brand fruitcake here at the Beatrice Bakery, I can see why so many people consider fruitcake a cherished holiday tradition.
I started work here 39 years ago, and our depositor and our mixer is the same machinery that we used back then.
Greg Leach is the president and CEO of Beatrice Bakery Company, and he says during the regular season, Beatrice Bakery makes 6,000 pounds or 3 tons of dough every day. Ripe fancy cherries are an essential ingredient in each and every one of Grandma's fruit and nut cakes. And let's just say the method of making German fruit cakes here is tried and true.
This formula is the same. It's been the same for 100 years. We buy nothing but the best ingredients, and it's been done the same way ever since we started making this in the 1960s here at this bakery.
I guess a century of satisfaction is a pretty good indication that this recipe is a winner.
There was some German immigrants in 1917 in St. Louis. They were bakers, and they ran across this recipe from their grandmas, the fruitcake recipe. So they decided to try it, and they baked it for a long time, then they retired, and then we took it over and started baking it ourselves.
So it's coming off the conveyor here.
Brenda Raymond has worked at Beatrice Bakery for the past 10 years.
We do really care about our product that we put out, and this is a great bunch of gals to work with. We have a lot of fun.
Right now they're taking the cakes out of the oven to be cooled overnight before we package them tomorrow morning.
Greg is positive that these are the best fruitcakes on the market.
There are a lot of other fruitcakes out there that are very cheap. They use cheap ingredients like citron and peel, but we did not do that. We don't cut corners. Ours costs a little bit more, but it's well worth it.
Over the years, Greg says he's battled negative remarks about fruitcakes.
The people like Johnny Carson, who didn't help us even though he's from Nebraska, he made a lot of fruitcake jokes, but the funny thing is, every year his mom, when she was alive, she bought a fruitcake from us. So we have individually wrapped slices. And
Greg says people are often surprised about how much they actually enjoy fruitcake.
We go to a lot of food shows. We figure if you try our cake, you'll like it and buy it. It's getting it in the hands of the people to try is the most important thing.
Come on down to 5th and Market, stop in our office and buy a fruitcake.
The Beatrice Bakery Company has gone through many evolutions, as they were a locally owned business for the first 40 years. Then they were nationally owned for 35 years. And now, Greg is proud to say that the Beatrice Bakery Company has been locally owned again for the past 15 years. Straight ahead, a sentimental story about a man wanting to honor his wife with a very unique memorial. right here at the Homestead National Monument.